Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone is welcome to the table, but of course, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
Hey, this is Anthony.
This is episode 516, Top 10 Game Companies. We like to thank all our Patreons for helping us unlock a brand new episode. Hello, friends, and welcome back. And as always, this is the podcast about you, for you, and all the fun that we have at the table together. So this week's special episode, our voice of the gamers. Anthony, our gamers have come together. They have said their piece. They have made their voice known. And in fact, they have told us who are the top 10 game companies.
Yeah. It's a fun list. Everybody kind of, and here's the rule though, like, it's not just votes. We want to know why they're the best.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were going to go Fight Club rules.
Oh, Fight Club. Yeah, we don't talk about the top 10 game companies. Except right now on this episode.
Just this episode.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's everybody's got a good reason for the games that they nominated. We're going to talk through it and tell you which game companies got the most votes and therefore are our top game companies. Or I guess I should say your top 10 game companies, listeners, because these are your nominations.
And then you're never allowed to talk about it again, because that's the first rule.
Yeah, it's permanent, and you have to keep it in your head.
That's
silently.
Right. Don't tell anybody about this episode. This episode never happened.
Okay, no, please tell everybody about this episode.
No, they can't. You can't tell anybody.
Listeners, not last listeners.
No. That's how you make listeners, by telling people not to talk about it.
Yeah,
Did you not see Fight Club?
I want to be that secret club.
They are a secret club.
Yeah, but are they all the same person?
Ooh. Are you and I the same person?
Oh.
That's true. To be fair, you've never seen both of us in the same place at the same time.
I think lots of people have.
Have they? Oh, wow. That's good. Yeah. So what's wrong with them that they're seeing two of us?
Oh, see, there you go. Spin it back around.
Well, yeah, it's a, a joint delusion. I mean, come on, man. Have you seen the world outside?
Yeah. We could all use a good joint delusion right now.
Your question of the week. Which of us is real, Anthony or Chris? Write in, let us know.
That's going to make one of us feel really bad.
I don't know. The one that's not real might be a lot more fun. I don't know. One of us, the data's out there. This could certainly be a simulation. Or someone's simulation.
Yeah, that is true. We could just lose our minds. We're like, sorry, y'all, it's the simulation. It's a little glitch.
It's just a glitch in the Matrix. It's fine.
Yeah. All good.
Whose simulation is it? Is it us or is it them, Anthony? Or is it me or is it you?
I hope it's them, because I wouldn't do this.
Okay. So it's my podcast. I'm just imagining Anthony, which is weird.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is getting deep, bro.
Yeah, too deep. Too late. Too deep for that.
We'll have to save that to the After Hours show.
Yeah, for the after hours. We're calling it After Hours, correct?
I don't know. I change it every week.
You do change it every week, and then I'm like, wait a second. I changed it in the spreadsheet, so it is After Hours, but
listen, originally it was OnlyFans, and you shot that down.
We're still doing this show. Okay.
Look, a lot of people want us to talk about board games, and there are fans, and there are only fans. I don't know what the problem is with this. It should be fine. It makes a lot of sense. Come on.
Yeah. No, I can't argue with any of that logic. It is impeccable.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. All right. BGA After Hours. That's coming up.
Only for our fans.
Tomorrow. Yes. Only for our fans. There you go. Only, in parentheses, for our parentheses fans.
It's like air quotes on a podcast. It goes over really well.
Yeah, exactly. You got to really layer in the language there.
BGA After Hours. BGA After Dark. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It's one of those. Originally it was After Show, but that was not popular at all. So
no.
Specifically with Chris.
Well, I am the glitch in the Matrix. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Yeah. We've
been doing those a while now. We popped a couple of those out. It was supposed to be every other week, and we've been doing them weekly.
Yeah, well, we figure so the thing is we have this conversation all the time anyways. So it's just like, let's hit record if we're going to talk about like what we're watching and what games we're playing and what's going on in the world and our lives. Let's just record it. So
yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, of course.
It's fun. Like last week. So this week's episode comes out tomorrow when you're listening to this. So check it out if you're on Patreon. Producer level or higher, you get access to those every week. But last week we talked about all sorts of cool stuff. We talked about Solo Leveling. We talked about Invincible. We talked about Severance, the Super Bowl, the stupid parade in my hometown, keeping my kids home from school.
Yeah. Every week's different. Every week's cool. And again, if you'd like to check that out, patreon.com/BGA. And again, if you don't like listening to ads, and I do not listen to ads, also patreon.com/BGA.
That's true. Ad-free episode up before this one every week.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you all for joining us, whether it's on Patreon or on your podcast player of your choice. And again, we may not be real. Who knows? We could be AI by now.
Oh, man. See, that's the thing. We could, and we wouldn't even know it.
That's true. Wow. That's a thing. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
If
For
there
the
is a later.
Oh, no.
There may not be a later. It's going to go totally Twilight Zone by the end.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't been there already? Okay.
Well, submitted for your approval. 2 podcasters talking about games while not playing games. Ooh.
Yeah.
Deep, man. All right. Well, that's what's bouncing around our heads a little bit. But Anthony, there's so much stuff going on out there in the world. I know we wanted to mention some of the stuff with Board Game Academics, letting people know where we are, what's going on, what's happening, and also what's happening with BGA.
Yeah. Board Game Academics. Let's see. It is very close to the end of February. If you're listening to this right when it comes out, you got like 2 or 3 days if you want to submit something for our 2025-2026 journal. So those submissions are open until the end of the month. But what I will say as well is that this weekend, Saturday, we are launching Volume 2. So you can check that out at boardgameacademics.com/issue-2. That'll be up on March 1st. So definitely check that out. We have lots of amazing stuff it's being published. We'll go in a little bit more detail next week as well. Just like once that's all up, then we can point you to specific articles. But yeah, it's awesome. Very excited to have that done and ready. I know our authors are very excited as well.
Mm-hmm. And Voice of the Gamers out there, our Victory Points essays.
Yeah, Victory Points. So again, this is a monthly column, and we have our new column up this month for February from Matthew McCack. And hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I've exchanged many emails with Matthew. But their article, The Social Paradox of Gaming and Introverts, is all about kind of exactly what it sounds like. How social gaming is in general, and the fact that many of us are very introverted, and kind of the crossover and what that looks like, and their experience in that space and what that kind of meant for them. Very, very fascinating read. And you can check that out on boardgameacademics.com/victorypointessays.
Yeah, and if you have an experience that you'd like to share about the tabletop industry, check out boardgameacademics.com. You'll take a look for the Victory Point essays, and you could submit your own experience in tabletop gaming and get paid to do so. And you get to work with the very one and only Anthony Chatfield.
That's true. You got to deal with me sending you edits. Have fun. No, I'm very cool about it. And yeah, it is a chance to get your name out there, to get published, to share your thoughts. And yes, you do get paid. And there are not a lot of those opportunities for paid stipends on this kind of writing. So, hit me up. Even if you just have an idea and you're like, would this work? I'm happy to take a look, offer my thoughts, feedback, notes on anything.
Yeah, no college degrees required. We just want to hear your voice and just elevate it a little bit at the table.
Yep.
All right, I think let's go. What's going on with Board Game Academics? What's going on with Board Gamers Anonymous?
Yeah. So, okay, first up, we have to get this out of the way.
I don't want
last
to do this.
week
No.
No, you don't like
it? Do we have to do this? We're gonna look bad.
Yeah, we don't look that bad. I mean, we looked bad last week.
We looked really bad last week.
Explain a board game poorly. We had a couple submissions over on the Patreon from Drew and John, and we did not get the answers at all.
I think we answered that question poorly.
We answered that question poorly, yes. So we asked on the show, we asked John and Drew to send us the answers so we could share it all with everybody out there, because they had not posted those answers originally, as requested by myself. So Drew,
wait, you should read through the badly explained first in case people didn't hear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's start with Drew's. This is the clue.
Okay.
0 to fight over.
1
wants but doesn't know where to look. One doesn't and keeps hiding. Any additional thoughts jump into your head from last week? I do have the answer now, so I can't guess anymore. Drew sent me an email. Actually, Drew did not actually send me the answer. He just sent me another clue. But then John's like, I think it's this. And I'm like, me too. So.
Well, now listening to it again, it takes me in a whole different direction, which is, I don't know what I was thinking last week, but yeah. Go ahead, just hit me.
Drew has one more clue that I'll throw out there, and then I'll just give you the answer.
Okay.
This particular zero was won in a competition of riddles.
This particular zero was won in a competition of zeros?
Riddles.
I don't know. Just
War of the Ring.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
There we go. It took a minute. But I got it.
Sure.
Yeah. So the zero is the ring, of course. Won in a competition of riddles between Gollum and Bilbo.
Sure. Okay.
Great clue there, Drew.
Nice,
you got us.
Drew.
Yep. And I will give John full credit because in the thread when Drew posts this, John posts a response like, "I think I got it, and it's very clever, and this is why I know that," and he was right. So,
okay,
job.
Excellent job.
Yeah. All right. So on to John's. Now John had rhyming couplets. Here they are. Compete in battles, win the scrap, control the places on the map. Winter comes and so does spring, changing almost everything. You must avoid the bishop's touch, or you'll end up with not much. You'll need someone to scare the crows to give your soldiers further goes, and now it's up to you to name, if you can, this small board game.
Okay, just hit me.
Yeah, so John wrote back and said, my game was Condottiere. The winter and spring cards change how the played cards score. The bishop card removes the highest scoring cards from the table. The scarecrow allows you to retrieve mercenary cards, which you have already played, allowing you to use them again. And the game box is small and fits in your hand.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
I've not played that. Have you played that?
I have not. No.
Okay.
I've seen it. I'm familiar with it. So when you say like, oh yeah, I've seen that stuff, but yeah. A nice deep cut that we weren't going to get.
Very nice.
Great job, John.
Well done, people.
All right. So think of stuff because we might do this again in the future and,
make us look bad. We love it.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully.
Not us, but somebody else.
Hopefully you're having fun out there.
Yeah.
All right. So one other thing here, news-wise, we have a survey that's up right now. It's being run by Kelber, our community manager over on Discord. It is in the show notes, and you should be able to find a note in the Discord as well. But we're asking questions that kind of help us learn more about you and who's listening to the show, why you listen to the show, all that good stuff. So fill that out. We're going to run it for another couple weeks, and once we're done, we'll pick someone at random. They're going to win a game, win a prize. So all you got to do is fill it out, and you got a good chance of winning a game.
And it helps us do what exactly?
Do all this better.
Ooh, better? Yeah. A better podcast?
Yeah, because we're if we know what you guys are doing and what you like and what you play, then obviously we can create content that's relevant to you. So yeah, just fill that out. Let us know. It helps everything. Not only just our understanding of everybody out there, but just generally the show and the channel and the network and nice. What we're doing.
And everyone can jump on Discord for free.
Discord link is in the show notes. You can join for free. There's only a couple of locked channels on there that are patron only. Everything else is open, so you can find the questions of the week there if you want to answer them. You can find what we've been playing. You can find recent podcast episode links, all sorts of stuff.
Excellent.
All right. Yeah, and then lastly but not leastly, we've been reading these every week, so thank you everybody who keeps posting. Over on Spotify, Damien left us a 5-star review. Great show about board games. The interaction between the hosts is great. Highly recommend.
Oh, nice.
Sweet. Thanks, Damien.
So I guess the failing those questions did not sink us.
No.
Oh, jeez. Thank you.
I don't think so. Although maybe Damien wrote this before that episode.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
I don't want to read the reviews next week.
Yeah, like when we're recording this, that only posted a couple days ago. So we'll see.
All right. Well, please, someone write a nice review next week. I'm just saying.
Yes, about our riddle solving skills.
Let's just leave that part out. We're not so graded on the curve with the riddle skills, but otherwise a good podcast. But riddles need some work. 5 stars just because we believe in you. You know,
definitely not Bilbo up in here. We're not.
No.
We don't know what we're doing.
All right. Well, again, thank you all for reaching out however you do. Thank you all for rating however you do. And thank you again, as always, to join us every week as you do. All right, Anthony. Well, we got a little full schedule here. Let's talk about some games this week. Let's start off with our roll for preview.
Preview.
So it has finally happened after an exceptionally long period of time. And GameFound and I need to have a little talk. And I'm just going to break it down to a nutshell because GameFound and I will have a conversation off mic a little bit. Let's just put it that way. And the thing is, the amount of time that goes from when they announce a game and then this endless period of just like promotion with no content drives me crazy. Like, it's not fun. And only is it not fun, but I stop following the updates at some point.
Yeah.
So when the game finally comes out, I'm just like, do I care? Because I spent 6 months of you going, this game's coming out, this game's coming out, this game's coming out. I'm like, sure, I'm happy, but like, I just think it's too far along of a period of promotion for something that at one moment will all come out at the same time. If they promoted it for 6 months and then like every week or every month had a major reveal, that would be a different story.
Why do they do that? They all do that. Like, oh, guess what? This week, here's a piece of art.
Yeah.
Like, Ghost Galaxy is doing a preview for Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation, and every like 2-3 weeks, and it's not even every week. It's like every 3 weeks. Here's a new piece of art. Here's what Gandalf looks like in the game. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Show me the game. Show me the whole game.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't. And the Star Trek campaign, and we're talking about Star Trek Ascendancy, the final frontier that's currently on GameFound right now. At the time of recording, you have 12 days left. It already surpassed its funding goal, which is kind of a ridiculous $50,000.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're not producing this for $50,000.
No. And again, this is also one of those other weird things. And I guess from a marketing standpoint, somebody thinks this is important to show some clout or some power behind it. Like, it backed in like 6 minutes and 34 seconds. I'm like, yeah, of course it did. Yeah. Right? The game costs like almost like $500 each, more than $500 each full.
You only need 100 backers. Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know why you need to, like, that's not a, how would you say, it's not a flex anymore.
No.
That used to be a flex back in the day when Kickstarter was not funding certain campaigns. So for a game to fund that quickly was a phenomenal kind of achievement, right? Because the companies were so small that were on Kickstarter that they needed to hit that as much as possible. You remember we used to watch KickTrack?
Yeah.
Which was a website that used to like track the growth and predict if a game would fund. It's no longer needed. Like, of course they're going to fund because they're funded by big companies. This game was always going to fund. It was never going to be a thing. So I it does the opposite of building a parasocial relationship. It kind of just like strings you out with no information.
Yeah.
So now it's out. And if you're not familiar with Star Trek Ascendancy, I wouldn't blame you. This is a Gale Force 9 game that came out several years ago. Anthony and I played it way back at Gen Con when it first came out. I think initially it was designed for, or at least initially it was pitched for 3 players. Am I correct on that? It seems like that was a thing.
It launched base box with 3 players.
Yes.
Our first player was with 4 players because they had one of the expansions that hadn't been released yet.
Yeah, I think the Kardashians were in there.
Yeah, and we were like, how do we get that? They're like, it's not out yet. And we're like, oh, boo. Like, here's a review copy for 3 players. I'm like, I don't have 3 people who are going to... Come on, give me 4.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
So, Star Trek Ascendancy is Star Trek from your TV shows and your movies. It is I guess you could say a 4X space exploration, epic battle, a bunch of skirmishes, but you also are developing technologies. You're also colonizing planets and getting resources, and there's some Euro mechanics into it because you're trying to gain ascendancy points to actually win the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main win condition for the game. So if you know anything about Star Trek, you know there's a bunch of different civilizations, and each of them have a unique power, race, civilization kind of set. This game does a pretty good job of giving each faction two major special abilities, kind of buffs, but also debuffs at the same time. And each of the factions kind of plays like the show. So the Klingons are very aggressive. The Federation are very scientific. The Romulans are very scheming. And then, again, all the other races do what their particular races do. They come along with technology cards that also somewhat reflect that particular civilization. And there's also fleets, which when you build enough ships, you can actually put them into a fleet. And that fleet, quote unquote, gives it a special ability in the game. And there's 3 different fleets for each faction. So depending on what you want to do, some will give you more offense, more defense. Some will do a bunch of crazy different things, again, based on civilization. We've reviewed it. We've played it. It is a very good game, but it's also an exceptionally long and obtuse game.
So long.
Yeah. And they've had a lot of expansions, including the Borg expansion. Again, if you know much about Star Trek, it's a thing. Now, you don't need to know Star Trek to enjoy this game. Like Twilight Imperium, there are factions. They do things. It does not require you to know backstories.
No.
That being said, you will certainly enjoy the game a lot more if you do. Now, beyond all the expansions that came out from Gale Force 9, and I want to say something really quick about Gale Force 9. Gale Force 9 is one of those companies out there, and there's very few of them, that truly has a passion for their intellectual properties. They do Doctor Who, they do Star Trek, and several others. They do Dune. And when they produce a game, you could tell like there was real research and investment in it. It's not just like they took a space game and they were like, it's Star Trek now. Like, no. This seems like it was built from the ground up based upon what it could be. That all being said, this is the campaign that has broken all campaigns because it includes not just the base game and all of the expansions up to this point, but it also includes 3 new factions that come in this game. And they're all very cool factions. I won't get into it because, again, if you're a Star Trek fan, you know. If you're not a Star Trek fan, you probably don't care. But there's new factions. That's also cool. I want to quickly go through this because I think it's important to talk about. There's solo player. There's NPC modes for the different factions. There's 2 giant cube boxes which fills everything that are designed specifically, at least some people claim on the campaign, for your Kalex. So
it's in their copy.
Yes.
It is in their copy somewhere. It says Kalex friendly box.
Yes. So someone finally thought about it.
Which is great, because I have
great.
these other stupid boxes that are like on top shelf of my... Yeah, this is good.
So 2 giant square boxes. One looks like the Enterprise. One looks like a Borg cube. Big shocker there.
The Enterprise one looks silly, though.
It does look very silly.
If you got a Borg cube, which looks like a Borg cube, then it looks like a squared up version of the Enterprise.
It does. And I understand why, because it's the Enterprise is the iconic ship.
Yeah.
But it looks nothing like it. It looks like a gray cube.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they could have done, but they probably could have thought of something if they thought a little harder. Yeah,
I don't know what the solution is. I do love the Borg cube though. That's cool.
Borg cube's very cool. The animation showing the setup looks very cool. It has storage for everything, of course, and all the factions fit into one box, and all the pieces fit into another box. So if you do want to play this game, and technically you could play with it up to 13 players.
Freaking nuts, man.
13 players.
And it's an hour per player.
And that's
setup plus downtime. That's like an 18-hour game.
Plus breakdown, too. Don't forget breakdown.
Yeah. Wait, you're just going to dump it all on the floor at that point.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
Now, what's really good about this campaign is they at least smartly got to the fact that people were having a problem with it because it was obtuse, it was taking a long time, and they wanted to upgrade things and rewrite the rule book somewhat.
Yeah.
So there's upgraded pieces, of course, but really, if you do care about this, what they primarily have done here is they did a prelude, Terraforming Mars kind of language here. They made it so that you start with more resources and you start with more civilization buildings out there initially, so that the game jump starts. Because the first couple of turns of the game, you're kind of up by yourself and you're kind of building your own thing. In addition to that, they also sped up a lot of the other aspects of the game so that you can actually get into the game right from the start. Also, very smart idea because the game was taking a long time. Part of the long time is when you go to a certain part of the unexplored universe, you have to build these like space travel ways, and it takes time to get to different parts of the universe. So now, instead of just taking turns to move across that pathway, now you jump from one system to another. Movement's faster, resources start instantaneously, travels more built up right from the start. Everyone gets to build at the same time instead of like on their particular turn. So that speeds things up as well. You can upgrade immediately. You can initiate space battles a lot quicker. There's new cards upgrades. There's a lot new solo components that go along with all this stuff. There is campaigns. There is scenarios that you can play. There's a campaign book. Basically, they put everything possible into this game that they could ever possibly put into the campaign. I don't know if it is possible to add anything additional to this campaign after they added all of this to it. The original game has been reviewed. This new version has not gotten reviews as of yet. So keep that in mind. Take those kind of reviews with a grain of salt because this is somewhat of a different game. There is a lot of different purchase versions for this. You could get just the expansion stuff, which is about $150. You could get all of the stuff as far as just like the base level stuff for $250. You can get all in, including the new factions, $400, and the deluxe everything possible, including all the extra plastic and all the extra dice, for $500, my friend. $500.
Woo, $500.
Which they claim is 50% off of the price if you bought it all separately.
It probably is. Like, with how many expansions is that? Like 10?
It's a lot of expansions.
Yeah, and they're each $50. So
yeah,
sure.
It's a lot. It's a lot of a thing. I'm of two minds, and I would love to own this because I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and it's a good game, and I really want to play the new version of it because it might play faster and better. That being said, $500, man, plus shipping.
Yeah,
shipping.
Yeah. Have you gotten? Because I know you have this, right?
Yes.
At some point I did. Now you do.
Yes.
Have you gotten it to the table at all recently?
Not recently, no.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get played.
It's hard because it's weird to say this, but I think in some cases, the non-intellectual properties and non-IP games are sometimes easier to get to the table, weirdly enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, because people see that and they're like, well, I'm not a Star Trek fan.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, but are you a Twilight Imperium fan?
100%.
Nobody is. You just like the game.
Yes.
Eclipse? Are you an Eclipse fan? I don't even know what those races are, but the game's fun.
Yeah. So I think it's 50-50 of that, right? It brings some people in, but it pushes some people out. And I think it got somewhat of a bad reputation because of the length of gameplay.
Yeah.
I follow like a bunch of different Facebook groups where they talk about their games, and people are enjoying, at least the original version, enjoying the heck out of it. And a lot of those fans have put together fan-made expansions. So I'm interested and excited about this, but I don't have the Gold Press Platinum to purchase this.
Yeah.
That was a Star Trek reference, people.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah. Now, if it was the future Federation, I wouldn't have to pay for it because there's no money, and I would just be able to get it for free.
Just replicate it.
I know.
Just snap your fingers. It's right there. Go to the holodeck. Play the game in person.
Oh my god, that'd be great. So
yeah, I will say, because I had this for a while, I liked it. The reason I don't have it anymore is because it didn't get played. I had Twilight Imperium. I now have Eclipse. I'm like, I don't need a third of these.
Yeah.
But what I will say that none of the rest of those games have is that it has a solo mode. And the original game, you got the solo when you bought the Borg expansion.
Yeah.
Which was very fiddly, but was also very good, but also very fiddly, right? Did to keep track of a lot of stuff. So the new NPC mode is interesting to me, even if the rulebook is like 75 pages long.
Yes.
Because you don't get a lot of 4X games with actual well thought out reasoned solo rules. Usually you don't get anything because it's against the spirit of that type of game. And
Sure.
it did work because the Borg are perfect for that. They fit thematically as an NPC, like an Automa. It's Borg, and it gives you something to fight against in a fun way to play the game. So I do appreciate that. I don't appreciate it to the tune of $500. But I do appreciate it.
There's also $35 plus, $35 the cheapest shipping.
Yeah.
So US, UK is 35 and everybody else is 45, 60 and
throw tax on there, probably tariffs and everything else. We're looking at $650 to get the game to your house.
Yeah. So I want this. I can't imagine backing this. I'm hoping that retail will be kinder in the as far as history goes.
Yeah.
Because I again, if the solo mode's good and the second edition rulebook speeds up gameplay, makes it more dynamic, then this is something I could leave out on the table and just play as needed. Because again, you know, in a perfect world or in a convention center setting, maybe there would be 13 players.
Yeah.
But it would be a day for sure,
or 2
or 2 days. I shouldn't say a day, because when a company goes, it's this much time per person. Who are these people? I want to meet these people that, you know, work for all these board game companies that always kind of give it's just 15 minutes per player. And just like, you lie.
Yeah. Well, like when we played it at Gen Con, we had a teacher from the company walking us all through it and guiding us in the game. They gave us a 4-hour block and we didn't finish the game.
Yeah.
With 4 people. And I don't think subsequent plays I made of it, and it was ever close to an hour per player.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm hopeful that the Prelude boost and the instantaneous travel kind of expedites everything a lot more.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
While I do love that they've instituted the trade mechanic as far as, because it's Star Trek, I also think it's thematically necessary, but I think it's bad for the game. Because that's a whole extra element of like, do I want to trade with you for this, and then I have a trade thing for you, and I don't know. You got to cut some corners here, kids, for a game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is Star Trek Ascendancy: The Final Frontier. It is currently on GameFound. Again, 12 days if you want to back it. If you back it, back 2 of them. Send me 1. Much appreciated. Check it out, kids. All right, and now for our roll for reviews. So Anthony, I got to play a game. I know that you went through it. This is one of our favorite games of all time. It's multiple versions of this. We enjoy one, if not many, of this. This is Azul Duel.
More Azul.
So,
what is this, version 5?
I think. Well, actually, there's a mini version and there's a super big version too, right? So there's more than
version 7.
Yeah, buddy. So, where to begin? Last week's episode, if you remember on last week's episode, we have said that one of the trendiest trends that is currently trending in Trendom. See what I did there? That was nice.
That was a lot of trends.
That was right off the top of my head too, and it makes sense if you read the transcript. So is duels. Everything is duels. I just popped up and found a bunch of more duels. So I was like, hey, it's Azul Duel. So this was a game that I had seen at Asmodee at PAX Unplugged. I got a chance to take a look at it. People were checking it out. And I'm a fan of Azul. Anthony, controversial question here. Fan of Azul?
I am a fan of Azul.
A fan of Azul. Okay.
Yeah. Bigger fan of late. My daughter's really into it, so that really helps.
Oh, okay.
A lot of 2-player Summer Pavilion.
Summer Pavilion.
That is the favorite in my house. Yes.
Okay, I'm sticking with the glass, man. I'm a glass fan.
Yeah,
but
it's all good. They're all good.
They're all good. They're all slightly different, and they're all from Michael Kiesling. Actually, I would love the $300 version of that. Remember when that came out? That was like,
gosh,
that was
so cool.
It's a giant suitcase of like ceramic tiles. They came out with a mini version too. So, if you've not played Azul, Azul is all about decorating the palace using your own, using this kind of pattern creation. Again, depending on what version of Azul you play, you have these really nice little ceramic tiles of different designs, and your job is to select them from a pool of randomized tiles, put them into your own little section, and based upon completing rows, they'll give you the opportunity to place one of the tiles into the design. And as the game goes on, you will score points based upon where those tiles are placed, what they're next to, and bonuses that come along with the game. Of course, there is challenges, because if you cannot place all of the tiles to be set up to be placed into your design, they break and they score you negative points. It's a fast, pretty easy, straightforward game. Plays well at 2, which is also surprising because we'll be talking about Azul Duel here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it plays up to 4, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
the original
yep.
Azul. I think all of them play up to 4.
Yeah.
So it's good at all player counts, because again, it's selecting these randomized tiles, and when you select a color, you have to select all of that color in that particular area. So there's a lot of little strategic, tactical thinking throughout the game about how you're going to build up your design, and also which tiles you're going to take and when you're going to take them is very important in the game. So when they announced Azul Duel, I was like, but Azul already plays very well at Tool. See, now I'm getting a little too old.
Duel.
Tongue twisters here.
Yeah.
So why do we need a duel? Well, Azul Duel, take that. It takes Azul. It's primarily the same concept. You have these colored tiles, and they are randomly placed out on these little boards, these little circular boards, just like Azul. And then on your turn, you will choose one color of a type in an area. And you'll take those tiles, just like you do in Azul, and you'll place them into these rows, these holding rows. And if you complete the row, then you'll be able to put the tile into the design. Just like Azul. Period. And then there's more stuff.
Way too much more. Okay, yeah, you tell them first.
Well, so what they've done here is they clearly wanted to do something different. Now, when I played Azul previously, it's very straightforward. It's very easy to teach. Anyone can play it. It's an abstract game. Makes a lot of sense. Creates a very pretty picture. When I've played Duel games, I've enjoyed the vast majority of the Duel games out there. And my experience of the Duel games is, on large, they are quicker and easier and more straightforward. This Duel game adds complexity, which I was not expecting. Because previously, when you set up these rows for tiles, Anthony, they go right to the design that's already printed on the board.
Right.
In Duel, you have to select these tiles with different designs to actually create from scratch your own design on the board that allows the tiles to go there. If you don't have these design spots that are going to be placed in your overall design, the tiles have no place to go. So there's an extra step here prior to placing the tiles out. If you played Wingspan, you place the birds into the different areas, nature preserves, like it's either the trees, the marshlands, or the water. But then you play Wormspan, and now you have to place the caves before you place the dinosaurs. Here, kind of similar. You got to place out the design before you can place the tiles out here. So each and every turn, you're going to be taking tiles, but also you're going to be taking these large design pieces that go onto your main board. And then there's also these tokens that can be used to fill up your rows. Like you spend certain number of combinations of these tokens, and then they act as like a wild, and then that will help you complete your rows a little faster. So there's a new dynamic to the game that makes the game more complex. For the better is the question, my friend.
Yeah, I've been poking around with it as well, and I both like and dislike the additions. One, I think it's an interesting wrinkle, and it's often an interesting way to have like a secondary option for what to do on your turn. Like, oh, you'll take a dome tile, and there's only a certain number available, and if there aren't any available, then now you have to draw one randomly, and you lose points by doing that.
Yes.
So, like, oh, I put myself in a bad place. Now I have to draw one randomly because the other player grabbed all of them.
Yes.
And then there's the whole like bonus tile
Yep.
things. So it's interesting that you have more decisions, but it's not as good of a game of Azul, right?
Mm.
The whole thing about Azul is like it's quick, it's back and forth. The drafting is like very interactive because there's a certain pool, everybody can see what they are, and you're going for them. And now it's like, well, I can kind of ignore that part. I can go over here. I can do this. I can do that. It gets really like your own little puzzle
Sure.
that you're working through. And yeah, the other person's drafting stuff you need, but there's so many different options out there that you're like, well, they might get what I want before I get to it, but there's like 5 things I want, so I just have to
Yeah.
pick one of them. And like that's less interesting to me because there's a lot of games that do that. So I just don't think it was necessary.
Mm.
I think they had to add all this stuff because Azul, like you said, it's already a good 2-player game.
Yeah, it's also a very good 2-player game, and Azul at 2 is a different experience than Azul Duel. One of the 2 minor things that we didn't mention is on those tiles that you place on the board to create your design, some spots have a like a joker, a wild spot, which makes things a little easier.
Yeah.
And there's also spots that are like blank. They look blank, at least. They're beige. And those only get filled out when they're I think it's when they're surrounded, if I remember correctly. And then you'll gain bonus points. So those spots are harder to fill, but if you do, you get bonus points from that particular route. My experience with this, again, is this is obviously what they needed to do to create another Azul game as close as possible to the original Azul. And it makes sense that you create your own design. Like that's a good logical leap as far as what can you do that's different. Well, there's already a pre-printed design. Well, what if there wasn't a pre-printed design? What if you had to create the pre-printed design? You selected tiles for that. Oh, okay, that's different. I get it. Like it really adds a different aspect to it. A lot of games use maps like that, where they're like modular maps, and you can kind of like arrange them different ways. I think I'm alongside with you, Anthony, on this. I don't think Azul Duel is a replacement for Azul at 2 players. And as much as this is different, I feel like this is more complex of a game than Azul at 2. So I would say, like, if you like Azul and you want to play it at 2 and you want a different experience, this game's for you. If you want to play for 2, but you want it more complex, like you're like, I like Azul, but it's too simple. I want something more complex. The fact of the tiles, the fact of the extra spots, the fact of the special tokens that can be spent. As Anthony mentioned, like you lose points in certain circumstances. Like, and then there's also, I didn't mention where you kind of select tiles and they get stacked in a certain order. Like, again, there's more, it takes you for a longer walk for what is essentially Azul. So Azul Duel gets a play for me. I think it's if you like Azul, this is a good experience. It's a different experience. But if you ask me to play Azul at 2, for me, I think all of the other things kind of takes me for a longer walk than I really want to be on. I think I like Azul in the original at 2 because I think at some point you lose it. I think you lose the thematic thread to it, which is like, I'm picking tiles, I'm placing tiles, I'm picking tiles, placing tiles, and the choice of the tiles and when I choose them is like the key moment instead of like 5 other dynamics.
That is the genius of the game.
Yeah.
You're overcomplicating a genius premise already. It's not even bad. Like there's like the rating on Board Game Geek is like a 6.5. Like people are not happy with this game.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad game. I just don't think it's a good Azul game.
I would say it's a fine Azul game. I don't think it's as good as Azul.
Yeah.
I think, again, there's, like we said, there's a bunch of different versions of Azul out there, and everyone has their favorite, and the answer is you're all correct, because
Right.
they're all different enough that you can enjoy all of them. I think I have 2 or 3 of them myself, and this is just a different version of it. But again, if I'm saying that too, I would probably play the original. If you want something more complex, and you should know this is more complex because there's more moving parts as far as that's concerned. It's
Right.
not necessarily harder, but it is more complex because there's a lot of other balls, or in this case, tiles that you're juggling in the air at the same time. So, also I should mention, this is I think it might be in beta on Board Game Arena, but if you do have subscription to Board Game Arena, or if you want to wait a little while, you can play this on Board Game Arena for free and check it out yourself. It's a fairly good implementation.
Yeah. That's primarily where I've been playing it, and I've enjoyed it. And it walks you through it pretty well.
Yeah, again, all different versions. The original Azul 7.7. This is 6.8. We'll see how it kind of plays out.
Yeah, and like I guess should clarify too, because I think I sound like I'm super down on it. It's a play for me too.
Okay.
I was just disappointed because I was like, I love Azul. I play it almost primarily 2-player. What does this add to that? And then the things it added are not things that I'm going to bring to the table with my family. So it's disappointing in that way, but the game is fun.
Yeah, I think what else would you do or could you do with Azul that hasn't already been done in its, like you said, 4th or 5th iteration?
Right.
And I guess this is what they came up, or Michael Kiesling came up with. And I think it's a good idea. I would have almost renamed it. I mean, Azul Duel does it. I think it's the complexity here. It should be somewhat listed as such, because I think the duel kind of thing for me, like, it evokes streamlined and fast.
Right.
And I think this is the opposite of streamlined and fast.
Yeah, no, it's longer for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, there's our roll for review. All right, now on to our feature. The voice of the gamers, Anthony. They're out, they're voicing, and we're listening. And this week, they're telling us their top 10 game companies.
Yeah. So we asked everybody pretty simply, like, hey, we're making a top 10 list. What are your top game companies? And people could nominate up to 3 games. We had a bunch of different submissions from across everywhere. Patreon, Facebook, Discord, Blue Sky. So we're going to share with you the list, of course, of 10 games, but also, what people had to say, some comments that were pulled from those submissions. All right, so let's kick it right off with number 10 on the list. This is a kind of a fun one that comes from the parent of an 8-year-old and a teacher.
Oh, there you go.
They wanted to give Peaceable Kingdom a shout out, which got several thumbs ups, so kind of made it to the list. They create cooperative games for kids that are mostly fun for adults too, where all players win or lose together. Of course, they co-op. It really helped my son as well as students in my class to learn and playing games until the end and figure out basic game mechanics without the baggage of all the emotional breakdowns that come with kids playing against each other. Hopefully, I'm helping to cultivate the next generation of gamers. So, yeah, co-op games are great for kids. They've been great for my kids, for sure. So, and yeah, Peaceable Kingdom is great because it's co-op games, but like for a younger age. Whereas most of the co-op games we think of are a little too complex for most kids.
I agree, 100%.
So yeah, Peaceable Kingdom, great company out there doing stuff that nobody else is really doing.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
So let's see here. And I don't have the name of that person. I apologize.
Oh no.
I dropped the ball in pulling my
It's
my
okay.
answers.
It's okay. They're very peaceful people. They won't retaliate.
They're peaceful people. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So Epigon over on the Discord, and I'll find that name while I'm talking. But Epigon over on the Discord says Oink Games at number 9. So this was their nomination. And got some thumbs as well. Affordable, small box, charming, extremely varied. There are some misses, sure, which I'll just chime in here. Yeah, some of these games aren't very good, but when you release that many games, of course.
Yes.
But the library has such hits as Startups, great game, Scout, nominated last year, I think, for the Spiel, Masked Men, A Fake Artist Goes to New York, which I use in 2 out of my 3 classes that I teach, Drop Bolter and Deep Sea Adventure, which I know you love.
Yeah, it's had multiple iterations. I think Moon. They made a Moon version of it or something.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, they say it's really hard to not acknowledge their greatness.
Yeah, in the realm of small games, this is a Japanese company. I mean, like real Japanese company, and their games are quite good. The production is really high quality. You don't feel cheated, and they're fairly inexpensive. I think they're like $20 a game,
Yeah.
and again, you get a full game as far as that's concerned. And again, there's been a lot of companies that have done these small versions of games. This has been a very good version of this. This kind of attempt for small, portable, family-friendly gateway gamer kind of games.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, Deep Sea Adventure, I love that game. That's in my top 100. Just a fantastic little game that just does the thing right away. Perfect.
Yeah. What I really love about their games is that they manage, and this is an art form that goes in really all forms of art, of being able to boil down everything that makes something interesting as a genre into a bite-sized package. Which a lot of companies say that they're doing, but a lot of them fail. So Oink really does it well, and I know that because I can bring these to class. They're games that play in a half an hour, and they give the students a lot to think about, and they still have fun playing them. So yeah, super on board with Oink.
Yeah, whether you like or don't like a particular game, none of the games are cheap. Like everything feels like really quality production, really quality effort.
Yep. All right. Next up, number 8, we have Garp Hill Games. So David originally nominated Garp Hill. Always delivers on crowdfunding platforms, and the games go to retail as well. And pretty much they are the same.
That's
Bar
good.
some promos, which are not must-have items anyway, so no one feels like missing out.
I love it.
Yeah. Garp Hill is great because they release, like 2 or 3 games a year at this point?
Jeez, crazy.
Yeah. Which a lot of companies release 2 or 3 games a year, but these are almost all coming from like 2 or 3 designers.
It's true.
And the quality is always up there. The artwork is always great. They run solid campaigns. And yeah, it's not a bunch of Kickstarter exclusive stuff. So just solid, consistent company for sure.
Yeah, you have Architects, Paladins, all of those kind of games from the West Kingdom, the South Tigris trilogy, the North Sea trilogy. Like, the artwork, the games. It's coming right at you. Like, oh, I played that. That's good. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So, I'm going back to number 10 here. Peaceable Kingdom was nominated by Andrew.
Aw.
So get Andrew some credit for his write-up.
Absolutely.
All right. Next up, we have Leader Games. So, several people mentioned Leader Games. And the thing about Leader Games, I think that sticks out to a lot of people is the commitment to getting it right. Right? A lot of people mentioned this, like the rule books are living documents. They build on them over time. If they add content to games that are complex and asymmetrical, they update those and make sure it's available to everybody. They send out new ones. Their campaigns are full of stuff, but nothing's exclusive. So when you buy something, you're getting all the stuff that comes with that game, whether it's roots or arcs or any of those other ones. They don't release games very often, despite having a pretty good sized team. So that the quality is going to be really high when you get something from them. So it's just a very focused operation there.
Very true. I also think of cute little animals too.
Right. Yeah, and that's fun because their games are all like cutthroat and hard.
I know.
They're all cutesy.
And it's like, and oh yeah.
Yeah.
It underplays all the violence counterinsurgencies that happen in their games.
Yeah. No, I was about to say I have like my favorite game of theirs is a game about like these hegemonistic, cats and birds trying to take over the forest, and then the uprising of the woodland creatures. And I have like little stuffed animals on my shelf representing all these different
I love it.
groups of people. It's fantastic.
I mean, if you're going to teach your kids something these days, especially these days, it's counterinsurgency. Come on, man.
Oh man. All right. Next up at number 6, we have WizKids. So WizKids created Quarriors, Dice Masters, Horror Clicks, Hero Clicks, Halo Clicks, and Mage Knight.
Click, 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 click.
Click all the Clicks games. And then the Mage Knight Dungeons, the skirmish game before it was a board game. They've explored D&D miniatures, Painted or Not, Sidereal Confluence, and a number of Star Trek games. Yeah, WizKids has been all over the place.
Yes.
Cannot argue with that. So yeah, Christian, you are spot on with this one.
Star Trek Attack Wing.
Yeah.
That was a
One of your
WizKids.
all-timers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Rebuilding Seattle.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Soon to be Chicago.
And everywhere else to come.
Oh, man. Sad. But yeah, WizKids is great. And they find new ways to explore these things. You know, if they would just hurry up and give me that Mage Knight expansion that was supposed to come out like 4 months ago, I'd be super thrilled.
Yeah, WizKids is that company that they're just constantly swinging for the fences.
Right.
Like, they don't do anything small. And everything is just like big time. Like, we just did this. It's big. And you're like, yeah, done.
Yeah. And they don't go to crowdfunding. They'll just make the thing and sell it to you.
Thank goodness, WizKids. You guys are the best.
Yeah. It's everybody else, man. Like, oh, you want this game with Dungeons and Dragons on it or Star Trek? It's $600, as we just talked about.
Jeez.
Kids.
Right.
So Christian also nominated the next one on the list, number 5, Ravensburger.
Oh, yeah.
So so Christian says, Ravensburger, who would eat a Ravenburger anyway?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So they've brought us a vast villainous line of games, which they were all compatible. Yeah, that would be cool. I just played Star Wars Villainous with my kids for the first time, and they liked it a lot. And then I remember telling them, like, oh, there's expansions. There's also a Disney version. They're like, oh, can you mix those? Like, no, you can't. So, Marvel, all characters feel thematic. Ravensburger has brought us classic IP that fit: Jungle Cruise, Alien, Fate of the Nostromo, storybook games, early versions of Labyrinth, Castle of Tuscany, Castle of Burgundy, tons of memory games and puzzles. Oh, and Lorcana. So,
and also another company that does fairly inexpensive games.
Yeah, and they make them accessible. Like, they're designed to be sold in places where families are going to buy them.
Yes. I mean, I've really... And the early Euros, Ravensburger was just known for their Euros.
Yeah. Ravensburger with Alea. It's a different company now, I feel like, than it was.
Well, they got the Disney money now.
Yeah.
There's no talking to them. They're too big right now.
I know, yeah. They launch Villainous, and they're like, oh, there's a taste to that Disney money.
That's what money is.
Every time we're at Target, my kids are like, what is this stupid Disney card game? Because they want Pokemon cards.
Sure.
And Pokemon cards are always out of stock.
Yes.
Because they're impossible to keep in stock. But there's lots of Lorcana cards at Target.
Oh, man.
And they're like, what is this? I don't want this. I'm like, what? The game's apparently pretty good. They're like, no, I want Pokemon cards. So...
Did you tell them that it's so good that someone walked out with a pallet? I think it was Magic cards, though, but still.
That was Magic cards, yeah. Though the people were like fighting in the line, though.
Fighting the line, that's it. That was the 3-day line that was happening outside.
Yeah. Folks.
CCGs, is there anything they can't do?
Nothing positive.
No, nothing at all.
Oh, man. All right, moving on. Number 4, DeVere.
DeVere. Remember they were like a little company that we were talking to way back in the day?
Yeah, it's like very like niche things of like historical games.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were the only ones talking about them. I have to reiterate that.
Yeah. We reviewed several of their games many years ago before they had the big booth.
They did. Now they have a big booth, man.
Yeah. So here's what they had to say. DeVere has put out some great games lately, and a couple of my current favorites in The White Castle, Lacrimosa. Both great productions, streamlined rule sets, and crunchy decisions that leave me wanting more when the game is done. I'm also drooling over Salton Sea and Rock Hard 1977, wanting to play both. That's from Eric.
Nice, Eric.
Yeah.
Well
DeVere's
said.
had a lot of good stuff lately.
Yeah, they found their niche, and I've just, like, for example, White Castle. Like, I still have not played White Castle. I will play White Castle.
It's on Board Game Arena now.
I did see it there, and people were like, "Oh no, I brought," because again, small, like we talked about one game, small, compact. They found the formula, and gave people just enough of that taste of Euro experience that they just were satisfied. Like, just brought it with them everywhere. So
yeah, that one and Red Cathedral, both very good.
Plus, they went the other way with the fancy Lacrimosa, and also the
Oku.
and also the the musical instrument game, which I'm now blanking on. See, we're both blanking on now.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah. Lots of big stuff though. The releases lately are just like big honking euros or little small euros.
Yeah, and they were a very good company, and like you said, they had the historic games, so they were in that general ballpark from the very beginning. So it's good to see that a company like them were able to come back and pull together in a really big way, and just overall a very good production of games across the board. So
yeah, absolutely,
very nice.
All right, number 3 on the list here we have CGE, nominated by Vagard. Vigard says, CGE can't seem to do much wrong nowadays. Kutnohora was amazing, and SETI really, really good. So, yeah, I would say, like, CGE is great for multiple reasons. One, yeah, some good games lately. They had a little bit of a dip there for a couple years where the games weren't quite as good, but we have the Lost Ruins of Arnak came out of nowhere. It was very good. Sanctum a little bit before that. We have, SETI most recently. Amazing. But historically, just solid stuff kind of built on that stuff by Suchi, or not Suchi, Shavatal. And what really makes them stand out for me as a company is that those games are seemingly built more sustainably using like the rewood materials, and they're much more affordable than you get from a lot of other big honking euros. Like you can get a copy of SETI online for like $50-ish. A lot of these games now are like 70, 80, 90. Like, and there's a lot of packed into that box. So we do appreciate, like, as a company, they seem to care about the gamers. They try to make sure things are good. They release apps that are helpful to play the games better. Not to make the game app based, except in the case of that Devil game, but Deal with the Devil. But a lot of the games, they just, Lost Ruins of Arnak, for example, they released solo mode app. So you could play through the game in a solo campaign before they release the expansions. So yeah, CGE is doing good stuff.
Yeah, they've consistently put out very good Euro games, and that was always their thing. And they did not, go off on a tangent with wacky stuff. And very receptive to fans, very quality products, and even SETI was a big swing.
Yeah, I mean the thing about CGE is they have that Codenames money now.
That's right.
So they've got their evergreen. They're making their money.
Yeah.
They can go out and do fun things and make, like, Deal with the Devil is a crazy game.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big box full of stuff. It's probably an expensive production. And I don't think it did very well. But they're fine because they got Codenames money. So once you get your Codenames money, you're all set.
They're good.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're doing great, kids.
Yeah. All right. Next up, number 2. This is nominated by Epigon, Rio Grande Games. So they described the company as no nonsense, no bloat, just a steady stream of reliable game releases from good designers that look and feel like old school hobby games. And they keep Cube Rail gamers happy to putting out old releases and not messing it up like Capstone does. All right, little burn there at the end. Yeah, Rio Grande's great because I feel like they're always dropping stuff kind of out of nowhere. You're just like, hey, guess what? We have a game out. Yeah, it's shipping at the end of January. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what's the current one? Like the Bloodbath at the Moon Colony. That kind of came out of nowhere. From like the Dominion designer. So yeah, I feel like once a year, maybe twice a year, you get a game from Rio Grande. You're like, oh, this is cool. Where'd this come from? This is fun.
It's true. And again, early on, a lot of those kind of Euro games that were, while everyone was jacking up the price, they always kept a really good price for their games.
Right. Yeah, you can get games like Concordia or Power Grid or Fayum or whatever. Like, they're not crazy expensive.
No,
not
at all.
And they release content for them regularly.
Yes.
Like those Power Grid maps are, I don't know what they cost now, but back in the day, they were like $20. That's a very reasonable price to pay.
Yes. 100%.
So, all right. So that leaves us to number 1, and this was nominated by several different people and lots of agreements across the board. We talk a little smack occasionally, but can't really argue with Stonemaier Games being one of the hotter companies out there. So it's one of those companies that I think people always have strong opinions about, no matter how you look about it. But we did have Ryan on the Patreon as well as Epigon on the Discord. And a couple other people mentioned like, hey, let's talk about Stonemeyer here.
We had the man himself, Jamie Stegmeyer, on one of our episodes on the podcast.
Yeah. If you like blank, try Scythe.
Whoa. Way back in the day, before he became a rock star.
Yeah, it was before. It was like leading up to the launch of the Scythe campaign. We had him on.
Yeah.
So here's what Ryan had to say. Stonemeyer Games is one of the best board game companies out there. They announce games and release them within weeks. They quickly address customer issues and rules questions, and they're transparent about their processes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feed on FOMO. Their prices and shipping are reasonable, and they try to make everything available. And Jamie is all about promoting positivity, fun, and inclusiveness with the games. Sure, some may not like the company's games, or any of them for that matter, and that's okay. And for some reason, people tend to be extra critical of them. But one can't deny that Stonemeyer is incredibly customer-friendly and open about everything they do.
Yeah, Anthony. Yeah.
What?
Take that.
I like Stonemeyer Games as a company. I just haven't liked several of their recent games, that's all.
You didn't get the tattoo. We said we would get tattoos. I got the tattoo.
Get the tattoo.
I did get the tattoo.
Oh, man.
You can't see the tattoo.
Calling me out on the tattoo.
You can't see the tattoo, man.
Maybe I got the tattoo. You don't know.
I'd be amazed if you got the tattoo.
I didn't get the tattoo. No.
I'm gonna still go back to my. I have to go dig up that episode. Me and Drew predicting the future of board gaming and saying that Scythe would be the #1 non-IP board game of all time on Kickstarter.
Yeah,
it was. I called it. It became a thing. Love it. It's there. Yeah.
No, you're right, man. Yeah, everything Ryan said is right. You know, and Epigon throws in a couple more things here. Like, I don't like their games, he says, but they put out games on reliable timeline, don't do any predatory Kickstarter nonsense, and they don't go after you with any FOMO nonsense. Stonemeyer Games gets announced, they get released, and they get supported.
And again, history has, I don't know if history's forgotten this, but obviously Jamie was kind of the person who wrote the book for crowdfunding.
Yeah.
He was the person who came up with it. It was his thing. People followed his formula and did quite well thanks to him. And I also, again, with the comments here, I think Jamie was the first one to put a production timeline on his website, so you could actually see what stages games were in, and would have the secret codes that you try to figure out at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Again, not all the games hit, but the ones that did have done quite well. And again, we always do appreciate a company and a designer and a producer who actually goes out of its way to keep in contact. And I think I know for a fact, there's no other publisher / designer who does that. Like, he's everywhere. He produces comments and videos, and he goes everywhere and does everything.
Yeah, and he's super personable. Like, every time we've talked to him, he's been very open about what he's doing and why.
You don't really see him on the convention floor, but he's there. He's somewhere.
Yeah, he's not a big like stand out and sell kind of guy.
No,
and you can kind of tell just on how he promotes things. So it's great company, and it's paid off for them. They have a very strong, loyal fan base. Even when a game doesn't hit, it doesn't like tank them as a company. People come back and people pay in advance for their. Can't remember what the name of it is. They have like their own club. Oh yeah, you get early access.
You get early access, and you get some bonus stuff here and there. So he has a loyal following, to say the least.
Yeah. And there you have it, folks. Top 10 games companies, courtesy of you all, the listeners, voice of the gamers. So stay tuned for our next top 10, which you will all help build. And thanks for everybody who wrote in and nominated games or told us why you agreed.
All right, everyone. So that's everything for this week. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Every hero strikes out on their adventure for a different reason.
To prove myself worthy of my mother's praise.
To write my own story and discover who I really am.
To prove to my family that I am more than they believe me to be.
To revive the god that has chosen me.
But when the fragile balance of the world is in jeopardy, and sinister forces move in the darkness, heroes will be tested, pushed to their limits and beyond. And it will be left to them to determine if they are up to the task. There is a darkness rising. Will they be able to overcome the challenges and meet this evil head-on?
For my god.
For my story.
For my freedom.
For the world.
To restore the balance. Modified Role Season 2, The Chronicles of Erin, a D&D 5e actual play podcast. New season, new characters, new story. Find us on all the usual podcasting apps or at modifiedrole.com.